Chinese cars have been making their way into South Africa in staggering numbers. Since 2007, South Africa has been tying itself closer and closer to China with increasing trade, policy, and political ties. No wonder why China has direct access to sell their goods on our market. In this video, we'll be looking at cars from the Chinese Communist state, their skeletons, and whether it's a good idea to actually buy one. You're watching Car Fever POV.
天上太阳红呀红彤彤哎，心中的太阳是毛泽东哎，他领导我们的解放哎，人民翻身当家做主人，咿呀咿自由呀呀自由啊，人民翻身当家做主人。
The Chinese car industry has been developing rapidly in the last 2 decades, but the Chinese started off on the wrong foot. Yes, like all popular items, China thought it could just copy everything and no one would notice. They made blatant design copies of popular European brands. They thought if they made cheap knockoff BMWs or Rolls-Royce, they could sell them quickly before they stopped working. But that didn't go according to their plan. So they made trade deals with countries in the developing world to try and sell their cheap Chinese knockoffs. Tackling established economies like the US or Europe proved to be a difficult challenge. So China shifted its focus to countries like India, Brazil, and African countries. With their copy and paste strategy, China hit the South African market looking to make a quick buck, and our slow reacting government assisted them in their mission. China is like that kid in class that copies your homework word for word, changing nothing, and then cries when they get caught. The Chinese looked at our country and thought, what is the most popular thing on wheels in South Africa? Well, they found their answer, and unashamed, they copied it line by line. They then dumped it on our shores with government assistance in the form of taxi subsidies. Look, they were cheap, and like all cheap Chinese knockoffs, they were shiny when they were new. But as soon as they got used like the originals, they fell apart immediately. Today, there's none of them on the road. You'll be lucky if you see one. And if you're lucky enough to never ride in one of these, then you don't know what I'm talking about. Compared to the original, it was clear they cut massive corners to make cheap fake copies. Fast forward to today, the Chinese manufacturers have changed their approach. Since they succeeded in their first scam, they are not playing small anymore. They're going after the big guys. Yes, I'm talking about SUV buyers. Have you noticed that almost all the new Chinese cars are SUVs? That isn't a coincidence. More and more people have convinced themselves that SUVs are better than small hatchbacks. It seems like they're compensating for something, or it's just an ego boost. But they are buying bigger cars, some with all-wheel drive systems, never to go off-road. This is South Africa. It doesn't snow, so you don't need all-wheel drive if you live in the city. Four-wheel drive systems should be reserved for people who really need them, like farmers. But SUVs are a trend, so the Chinese saw an opportunity to once again hit the jackpot, and they pulled it off again. The design of some of these Chinese brands isn't an outright copy, although some never learned. But when I look at these cars without seeing the name, it's hard to tell what it is. They don't look terrible, but they aren't very distinct either. They don't have a brand identity. It's really hard to tell them apart. I've also noticed something funny about these cars.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Because most of the brands that make these Chinese cars are all controlled and owned by the Chinese Communist state, there seems to be collusion between them. Most of these SUVs have the same engine offering, similar interior layout, similar model names, and similar tech on the inside. So while they might look different, they have more in common than you think. Listen, find me one Chinese car with 500,000 kilometers still running from the last 20 years. I looked all over, and almost all these Chinese cars never last. In South Africa, we've experienced many cheap Chinese knockoffs, and if there's anything I've learned, is that they always break early. Whether it was cheap earphones or cheap gadgets, you've always regretted it in the end. For most people, buying a car is the second most expensive decision they'll ever make. No matter how good one of them looks, it's always better to buy from a known brand with a long proven history. Toyota. Some of these Chinese cars are equal or more expensive to purchase than their Japanese rivals. But Toyota is a brand that is synonymous with uncompromising quality and dependable reliability all over the world. For example, I've known many people who have owned this generation of Toyota Corolla, and it has proven to be infallible, unbreakable, and uncompromising. From neglecting it, not servicing it, driving it very hard for almost 20 years, it just keeps going. Here's one with 500,000 kilometers on the odometer, and I bet it still has 1 million more to go. So while these new and flashy Chinese gadgets look interesting, remember, always buy with your head and not with your heart. Thank you for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button so that I can keep bringing you more content like this.